Hi, it's Tony. Welcome back to Sailing LRA. Today I asked the question, can you afford to keep your boat in Sydney Harbour? I'm going to break down what it costs me per year to keep my boat in Sydney Harbour. I'm doing this in the hope that it might assist people considering buying a boat in making a sound decision. These are my personal experiences, and you may be able to keep your costs to a minimum by doing things differently, but this will be a guide in any case. As a reference, I keep a 34-foot, that's 10.4 metres, single hull sailing vessel on a medium rate transport for New South Wales mooring, and most of the costs are based on this boat, but I will refer in some instances to my previous boat, which was 28 foot, and I'll scale them up if necessary. Now I'm going to break the costs down into two main areas. The first one is simply keeping the boat, actually just having it there. And the second one is running costs based on Sydney Harbour prices. The running costs will be a guide as they will vary widely based on your choice of boat. So let's get started. You've saved up for or you've secured a loan for your dream vessel. But can you actually afford to keep it on the water? I'll include a list of costs at the end of each section, or you can tally them as you go. Let's dig in to find out the true cost of boat ownership. The results may surprise you. We're going to start with probably the most obvious expense when it comes to keeping a boat in Sydney Harbour, and that is mooring. There are three major factors that are going to affect the cost of mooring, and they are the size of the boat, the location you'd like to keep the boat, and the type of mooring you intend to use. The type of boat will have some effect in some instances. The most economical form of mooring is via a mooring licence through Transport for New South Wales. These licences range in costs from $380 per year for vessels under 7 metres in a medium rate area, up to $6,904 per year for vessels in the 24 to 25 metre range in high rate areas. One thing to remember is that this price is for the licence only. You may have to purchase the mooring tackle separately and have it laid by a mooring contractor. Prices can vary, but I would budget for a minimum of $2,000 for a smaller vessel. What's mooring tackle? Let's have a look. The mooring apparatus will have a few major parts. The riverbed is there. There'll be a large concrete block that sits on the riverbed, and the size of your boat will determine what size that concrete block needs to be. Cemented into that is going to be a large metal ring. The next major component is the heavy chain that's attached to that, with the last ring being a swivel. Then generally there will be some heavy rope which will come up, and this will go over the bow roller of your boat, which so it will more often than not have a sleeve of hose, heavy hose, to stop the chafing. There is then some thinner rope, and that thinner rope will be attached to your mooring float, and it's that is what you generally pick up with your boat hook to get this heavy piece up onto the boat, because it's that ring there that will attach to the cleats on the front of your boat. Currently, my mooring license costs $900. One of the conditions of the license is that the mooring is professionally serviced annually, and this year that cost me $250. An extra expense that I had was laying a larger mooring block, as I put a much larger vessel on my mooring. The cost to purchase and lay the block was $800. Pretty simple so far, but there are some considerations. Many popular areas of Sydney Harbour have no availability and long waiting lists. Transport for New South Wales has a mooring map online showing mooring locations, wait list numbers, and restrictions, things like vessel height, exposure to weather, etc. Some wait lists are huge, including Rushcutters Bay that currently has 68 applications on the list. If you're happy to drive a little distance from home to get to your boat, you might find available moorings in wonderful locations that you hadn't even considered. So you've secured yourself a swing mooring in your choice of location and you're feeling pretty chuffed, and you should be. Now, how do you intend to get to your boat? Unfortunately, you're going to need another watercraft. Some people use stand-up paddleboards, others kayaks, and on the odd occasion I've seen people even swim to their boats. Chances are, though, that you'll want a dinghy of some type that you can transport yourself and sometimes others to and from the boat. A lot of people buy inflatable dinghies, and these are a very good option. A decent 2.5 metre inflatable will cost around $1,500 new. Buying a $200 toy will lead to nothing but frustration, so don't even think about it. If you don't like rowing, you can purchase a small petrol outboard for around $1,500 or explore the electric options, which I highly recommend. I've done some testing videos for both the cheap and the expensive options of electric propulsion, so please see the links below. If you want a dinghy of either fiberglass or the classic tinny, you will generally get lots more life out of them, but you'll need to store them at the wharf or transport them to and from. I have a 2.5 metre tinny that cost me $450 a year to store at the wharf, as I'm not a rate-paying resident of the area. I think it's about $150 for rate-paying residents. Be aware, though, that some areas have waiting lists for dinghy storage as well, and you'll also have to purchase a chain and lock if you want it to be there when you need it. I found that Gumtree is an excellent resource for second-hand dinghies, and I was able to buy mine in excellent condition for around $500. Are there other options for mooring? Sure are. Some marinas and some yacht clubs have private swing moorings available for a fee. If you're a member of a yacht club, private swing moorings can be had at reasonable member rates. I have no idea what they are, but anecdotally, costs sit between the cost mentioned above and the swing moorings owned by marinas, which will cost you in the vicinity of $250 per month. Yes, per month. Sometimes these costs will also include parking at the club or marina, but it's best to check on application. And finally, we get to the top of the heap for mooring on Sydney Harbour, and that is at a private marina. Most private marinas in Sydney provide members with parking, facilities such as showers, toilets, laundry, and most importantly, walk-up access to your boat with shore power and water. You have the relative security of gated access and lots of other boats around, but this does come at a cost. Expect to pay in the vicinity of $1,000 per month to keep your boat at a marina. There will also be certain restrictions about what you can and can't do to your boat with regard to maintenance, and you may also have your application rejected if your boat doesn't suit the tone of the other vessels in the marina. In other words, if you have a project or a fixer-upper, they probably won't take you. I've often toyed with the idea of berthing for a month at a marina to see what it's like, but they remind me so much of caravan parks that I'm not sure it's for me. I love the tranquility of my mooring too much to want to be living cheek by jowl with dozens of other boaties. General maintenance. Now, at home you wash your car regularly and keep it garaged and out of the elements when you're not driving it. You wouldn't dream of exposing it for 24 hours of the day, every day, to harsh winds, storms, belting UV sun rays, and corrosive salt spray. The reality is that your boat cops all of this and more all of the time. Your boat becomes part of the unforgiving marine environment, so it stands to reason that it will require ongoing care if you wish to keep enjoying it. The most common question I get asked is how often do I have my boat anti-fouled and how much does it cost? Now my new boat isn't due yet, so I'll base my costs on the 2022 job I had done on my previous boat. To have the boat slipped, cleaned and anti-fouled, it cost me $55 per foot. Shop around as some places charge extra for high pressure cleaning and acid washes. I also paid $250 to have my two-bladed folding prop treated with prop speed. How often do you need to do this? Well, generally speaking, this is an annual expense. Weather conditions will play a major role as things like lots of rain and warmer currents generate blooms in marine growth. Different parts of the harbour also have their own mini environments, so the type of growth from place to place varies. What about having a diver come to your boat? Well, I booked a diver back in 2021 and it cost me about $20 per foot, and I was really happy with the result. So you might want to look at this option if you want to extend the time between full lift out hull services. If you have the ability to dive on your own boat, you could do this yourself and save some money. On my old boat, it was quite simple to don goggles and snorkel and clean the prop of growth, but cleaning the hull and the keel would require dive training and scuba gear, of which I have neither. Insurance. So my current annual comprehensive insurance is $1,400. If you're insuring your boat for the first time, budget for a lift-out survey, which will easily cost you over $1,000. If the survey brings up any defects, you will need to have these rectified prior to insurance being granted. Is it worth insuring your boat? Well, that's totally up to you and possibly your finance company, but at the very minimum, I would insure it for third-party property. Imagine if your boat's mooring line chafes through and your boat drifts around the mooring, smashing into half a dozen $1 million boats before it washes up on the shore. Not even worth thinking about. So let's look at the total costs of just having your boat stationary on the harbour. And what about the second factor, and that is running costs? Look, I imagine that most people who find my channel have sailing vessels or are interested in sailing on purchasing a sailing vessel. So if you own a powerboat, these figures won't be very much help. My last year's general maintenance, including an engine service, which was $750, a stern gland or stuffing box service, which was $550. And remember, this is an out of water service, so try and book it at the same time as your boat is slipped for anti-foul, and various other small things that I sorted myself for the cost of parts only. Too many to mention here. What about fuel? Most sailing vessels have diesel motors. I have a 45-litre tank and prefer to carry fuel to my boat in jerry cans rather than go to a fuel wharf at a marina. The last time I filled up at a marina, the costs were over $1 more per litre than the local petrol station, and I had to wait while a guy pumped hundreds and hundreds of litres into his mammoth cruiser. Pump out. Now the cheapest I've seen Blackwater pump out was $20 if you are also buying fuel. I've also heard of some places charging over $100. Sail cleaning. I had a Genoa cleaned a few months ago at a cost of $18 per square metre. If your sails are serviceable but a bit grubby, I highly recommend getting them cleaned, as it will make a huge difference to the look of your boat under sail. Let's have a look at the total of costs for running the boat over a 12-month period. When we add those two figures together, we come to $8,170 for the year, or $680 per month. Now, there are some costs included that are not usually annual costs, like laying a mooring block and cleaning a sail, but I think it's fair to still budget for unexpected expenses. Obviously, if you're running a powerboat, your fuel costs are going to be well over my annual cost of $100, and your engine services may be more regular and more expensive. Again, this is only a guide. The costs that will generally be the same for all types of boats are what I've called storage costs, and if we round up to $6,000 per year or $500 per month, I think that will give you a good idea of what you're in for if you are considering mooring in the harbour. Sounds expensive? Well, if you compare that cost to other alternatives like the annual fees for an on-site van at a caravan park, which can be $10,000 a year for a decent location, it's actually pretty reasonable. Hopefully this video has given you a guide as to what you can expect to pay to keep your boat in Sydney Harbour. Whether you can afford it or not is totally up to your personal circumstances, but I must stress that boating is a lifestyle, and if you prioritise it, even those of average means can enjoy what this beautiful harbour has to offer. Thank you so much for watching. If you're dreaming about boat ownership, I hope that this is your year. See you out on the water soon.